They do, and I've reminded a few people in office that the Constitution is higher than their law, and their law is by consent. And I've had this conversation with many of them, and the minute you say, let's see what a judge thinks, let's get you in front of a judge, it's amazing how quickly their attitude changes. Because
what do you think about, what do you think of these people, like all of these kind of like rotten apple judges that are coming down? I know that, there was just a Florida judge that came down on DeSantis's mask mandate for schools. That was a little bit of a blow.
Well, this is all part of the pantomime. This is to wake people up, to get people to understand what these people are all about. And it's being exaggerated because most of this has been, well, if not all of it, has been dealt with already behind the scenes. And this is playing out to get people to wake up, to go, how much will the public stand? This is very much an intelligence test right now to see how much. I think
most people are failing, right?
Yeah, there's a huge amount of failures because people have become so brainwashed, so indoctrinated. I heard somebody say earlier today, I don't care how many strains there are, just give me every vaccination so I can get on with my life. And that's the mentality you're dealing with. They've been so brainwashed.
It's true. I saw this GIF or GIF, however you pronounce it. It was something along the lines of the list of COVID variants, and it was just this huge stack of papers, and it was a finger reaching down and taking off the top one and handing it over again and again. And that's what they're going to keep doing, is just rolling out the variants ad infinitum.
Well, just this, because you're a decoder and you can work it out. This is a great one for you because the white hats are in control of this. And between you and I, all of the different variants are code for certain things that are going on as we're moving from darkness into light.
See, I heard you say that because I had made out that for me, Delta, when I first saw Delta, I thought Delta was the triangle at the top of the pyramid, that it was code for the Illuminati.
Yep, it could well be. There are so many things, and what I'm trying to do now is I've got quite a few decoders who are working on trying to work out exactly what they are, and it's become quite an exciting challenge because I published these variants over a year ago.
The actual letters they're using.
Yeah, the letter, the whole list that came out by the WHO, and it was all published by them and by these different places that they put this list together to put. So
this was a pre-planned list.
Yeah. This is all pre-planned.
Were they saying this is what we will name them when they come out, or we already have their gene sequences, or what? What were they trying to?
All they said is these different variants will come out at this time. And this was inside of it. This was what they were planning. The deep state were planning, and we managed to get a copy of it.
So this is an internal document.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit like many of the leaked documents that have come out showing agenda this, agenda that.
Yep.
Lockstep, etc.
I think the biggest piece of news that we gathered, well, I've known it for some time, but we were allowed to mention it as from yesterday, was the fact that the reason Trump didn't go straight into office was because of the fact that the deep state had managed to secure many, many years ago from the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, around 100 suitcase bombs, nuclear bombs, which they've planted all over the world and including all over America, that if Trump didn't allow Biden to get in this time into power so the deep state could control the world, they would detonate these nuclear bombs. So literally for the time that Biden's been in power, the White Hats have been getting each and every of these nuclear bombs, which are incredibly old now and incredibly dangerous because they've deteriorated an awful lot. I was speaking to Juan O'Savin last night about it on the show. But they've managed to get the bulk of them. I think there's still a handful of them in Japan they're still trying to locate, and a handful of them in New Zealand that they're still trying to locate. But
that's really interesting, Charlie. I had an agreement as I was logging on. First of all, I listened to Juan O'Savin's recent interview with Sean Stone last night.
Yeah.
And that was very interesting. They were talking about Robert David Steele.
Yeah.
And I would love to say something about that in a moment. And
Yes.
I want to come back to this whole bomb thing. But as I was logging on or trying to figure out how to get on this meeting, the code for Zoom was something like 107-701-107-77-107 or something crazy like that. Isn't that bizarre? So you bring him up within the first few moments of our conversation, and he was talking about all this DEFCON, COGON, all this stuff that X-22 report's been talking about. You also have Magic Eyes Only over on Rumble, who's been doing some very interesting stuff on the Law of War manual and relating what's going on to that. And Juan was saying that we have moved ever closer to that elusive moment when this operation is going to go live, in the sense that we'll be able to see it in real time. Do you agree with that?
100%. 100%. We're extremely close. We're certainly well within touching distance of it now, for when it will become public. And we have a code behind the scenes between all of us, that when something happens, then we'll all know that it's gone completely live and it's going to be open to the public.
And so the scenario that a lot of these people are envisioning, and of course this gets a lot of flack from people who are very disillusioned by the waiting game, is that there's actually going to be some kind of military government for some period of time, and it's going to involve some form of mass arrests. I know that you've claimed that there have been arrests already and tribunals or trials going on, and I certainly hope that's the case. And we get little tantalizing tidbits that suggest that some of that could be happening. I think the thing that a lot of people have the most problem with in looking at all of this, what you call the pantomime, is seeing how serious the pantomime is, to the extent that in this pantomime people are dying, and of course I'm very much in alignment with the idea that we are in World War III. It's just a different kind of war, and that there are casualties in war. I get all of that. I think a lot of people are just a little freaked out by Trump's continuing support of the vaccine agenda. I wrote an article on my blog. It's over at snooze2awaken.com. This was many months ago, and I called it Operation Warped Speed.
Yeah.
And it was this whole idea that there was some kind of weird play going on, but that ultimately the vaccines that aren't somehow neutralized or switched out or saline, and yes, we do have a lot of evidence that some of that has happened, but they're very, very dangerous in different ways, of course. And even a flu vaccine is dangerous, like an old tiny flu vaccine. So whatever they're doing in Russia, if that's a flu vaccine, even those are not good for people. There's studies after studies that show that, the more vaccines you get, the more problems and the worse morbidity rates that you have. So, vaccines in general, A, don't work, and B, are very anti-health.
They are, but as I was reminded when I was talking to somebody on the inside of the WHO, that they know that none of the vaccines have ever worked. They also know that it's a multi-billion-dollar business that they can't afford to lose. And this is why they've threatened to kill me if we publish a conversation between a politician and the WHO that confirmed that not one vaccine in life has ever worked, has ever been proven to be beneficial.
That's right.
And when you look at the damage that vaccinations have done, but then you have to, if you're a businessman, you look at the money they make out of it, it's absolute lunacy. And even down to one of my things, being an Englishman, coming over to America, I come over as a foreigner and I see things that stick out like a sore thumb. I come to Florida, to see my grandson. And
I know some of them already.
Yeah, is the size of people.
The weight, right?
The size of people and the type of food that they eat, it plays right into the hands of big pharma. These people become dependent on many different types of drugs, and it's very interesting that during this pandemic. They close down churches, they close down gyms, but they never closed down McDonald's. And
no, they sure didn't. They didn't. Or liquor stores, or
exactly,
a lot of different things.
And obesity has killed a lot more people in America than COVID-19, coronavirus, and influenza A, influenza B, chest infections put together.
Well, if you look at the relationship between the lockdowns and being sedentary,
yeah,
even more so, and increased obesity, and you can just see where that goes. And I would say that all of this bad diet not only contributes to people being on medications, but there's a kind of there's a circular thing with all of these facets, with the pesticides, and with the dental mercury, and the fluoride in the water. I mean, it makes a huge circle, and it's a sort of a ring of fire that everyone is in, where they're just being kind of singed by all of these toxins, and ultimately their IQ is lowered, their lifespan is lessened, their quality of life is lessened, and it's hard for families to get any traction because they're always dealing with one health crisis or another, or some other related crisis.